Recently, we got the chance to go into the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum in the northern part of West Virginia. And what we found in there was pretty remarkable, actually. We got some interesting stuff on audio and infrared and cameras and things like that I'd like to show you. So take a look at what happened when we went inside.
We started about 9 p.m. on the lower floors, and we went to this one room that was known for its activity.
Oh, doesn't know very nice, does it?
Crazy. We watched the ball, it rolled around, and it didn't really seem to be anything remarkable, at least at first. Then I thought I saw the ball move. It was hard to tell.
You're here with us. Can you move the ball? Show us.
Then I started questioning myself. Maybe it was a trick of the light. And then we made our way over to another, more active part of the hospital. And that's when Jennifer thought she heard something.
Oh, it's because there's people.
And then we made our way to the third floor. So far, not much had been going on. Until now.
I've got candy.
Ooh, I just saw it move.
Can you move
I
it?
just saw it move.
I've got candy for you.
Wow, I saw it.
And I guess it was another trick of the light. Nothing. Trying to understand how that ball was moving so weirdly was intriguing. But soon things were going to change. As we walked down the hallway, we started to notice that the air changed, the temperature changed. It seemed like there was a storm coming. And when storms come, they say paranormal activity goes up. Way up. We set up in a lavatory bathroom on one of the upper floors and started to record. We didn't notice anything with our own eyes, these things I'm marking on the screen. We didn't detect anything unusual. It wasn't until we got back to the studio to look at the footage that we started to notice the little things. This is the men's lavatory, which is said to have some of the most significant recordings of paranormal activity in the entire asylum. And tonight, it didn't disappoint. As I repositioned the camera to change the angle, the microphone picked up something strange, and I'm not sure what it was. To me, it sounded like a growling sound. Maybe it was just my stomach. But it was right after that the cameras picked up sounds that I am unable to explain, at least easily. It appears we recorded the sounds of someone saying, "Go back," and "Go." Those are not sounds we heard at the time. Only on playback in the studio did we hear it, and it was barely audible. Only when putting on headphones did I notice it and then played it back a few times to try to understand it. Did I really record an EVP? I really don't know what it was. I didn't put it there, and it's very interesting to me because mostly I'm a skeptic. But then something even stranger happened. I think that was a tornado warning siren going off, and at the time we just thought it was a run-of-the-mill volunteer fire department siren. But then I thought about it. At 1 o'clock in the morning? Yeah, exciting stuff. And one thing leads to another. We rolled a ball into the other room and noticed it was rolling strangely. So I brought the light in to look at it. And I asked Jen to give it another push. And it happened again.
Let's pull it towards me, yeah. Oh yeah, it's actually... What the hell? John, that is so strange. That is really strange.
And so we kicked the ball around some more to try to understand its weird path. It was uneven. It was rolling on its own in strange different directions. So I decided to give it a kick. So we kicked the ball, we watched it, and decided it was inconclusive. Nothing unusual. So then we headed off to the next part of the hospital, a part that was supposed to have a child in the room.
This would be the one. Yeah. Okay, hang on. Okay.
And as we spent time in this room, we didn't get much. Maybe it was the wrong time of night, I'm not sure. But so far, we had done pretty good. Now, granted, the acoustics in these places play a lot of tricks on your mind. But I was sure I heard something. And then, I saw something. And then, I saw it again. It only lasted a fraction of a second. And then when I got back to the studio, I figured it out. It must have been a flashlight reflection in the window at the end of the hall. And this is part of the challenge of ghost hunting or detecting the paranormal. You have to separate your own senses, your own beliefs, from what you actually record. And perhaps one of the biggest things to consider when you are ghost hunting is, are you really alone? So if you're considering doing an investigation of your own, spend the money and get the place all to yourself or your own group. The less people, the better. And fortunately for this place, the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum, it is plenty big enough to get your own private wing. And it was at this point that Jen went off with a small group and I had the chance to sit in an entire wing alone. And to be honest with you, it was scary. And so I sat there in the dark, alone, and I waited, and I waited, and nothing. So Jen and I regrouped and went to another wing where things did start to happen.
Heard a female voice. Right there.
And this is where stuff was getting interesting. We knew we were alone. We knew there was nothing here and no one here but us. And it was like 2 minutes later when we heard it. A loud bang. Something, not far from us, banged on the wall. It was clear as day, and we didn't need a camera to hear that.
That was on here. 3.
So then we headed down to one of the other wards further out on the wing. And what was in store for us in the next few minutes was, again, pretty remarkable after we got back and reviewed what we had captured. We had this whole wing to ourselves, and a storm was moving in. So we just sat and we waited, recording with our cameras. And sure enough, we picked something up. I don't exactly know what it was, but it was there. And the FLIR didn't really capture anything distinct, at least on this one. But it was kind of cool to see it on playback. And sure enough, less than a minute later, we recorded something else, at least of interest. This point of light that we also detected on the FLIR device. I don't know what it was, but it obviously emitted light and, to some level, heat. And here's the forward-looking infrared radar pointed in the same direction, and again, seeing this tiny point of light and heat. So we packed up our gear and headed up to the 4th floor to do a group ghost hunt, utilizing a 12-foot EMF tripwire that triggered off a series of lights if anything should cross it. And so our session began. At first, nothing happened, and I was kind of twiddling my thumbs, quite skeptical of this so-called device. It seemed to be barely blinking at all. And then things started to happen. The lights seemed to start flickering more, and eventually they seemed to respond to verbal commands. Now that was pretty good timing. Whatever that was, it sure seemed like a yes. So then we just gave it a natural follow-up question and asked about other drugs.
LSD, maybe? Yeah.
Did you ever take LSD? Was that your favorite drug, LSD? Cocaine. Wow.
And again,
Did you take a bump off
the
your
lights seemed to flash in some sort of coordinated timing with our questions.
That's people downstairs getting scared. That has to be people downstairs.
That's the bat.
That's the bad.
Yeah.
Then, as we asked more questions, we got lights and a sound.
What about heroin? Or is it cricket? One of those two.
Did
One of
anybody,
those two is making their
Hey, guys.
squeaky noise.
nobody just saw that shadow moving down the wall?
Yes.
Saw, I don't know, you know how it's one of those things, you don't know if you saw it or you didn't, but I saw it.
Red lights.
Yeah, maybe it was.
Can you shut a door?
The part, to me, that is really intriguing is the fact that right now the picture you're looking at is at full scale, or 100%. The previous pictures I was zoomed in at 300% to try to get more detail. But what that means is there is no one down at that part of the hallway that could be making those shadows. That is very interesting, and I invite somebody to try to explain that to me.
I saw something go down the wall. That's what I thought.
To capture this footage, we were using very high-end, professional-grade cameras. These are especially well suited for shooting in low-light conditions. In other words, a cleaner, less staticky picture than most TV show cameras are capable of delivering.
Do you just want us to shut up and leave me alone?
It should be noted here that while I am a skeptic with this ghost hunting stuff, I have seen and heard and felt unexplainable phenomenon many times over the years, including times where I worked as a cameraman on the major ghost hunting shows. Additionally, I remember when I was in this same hallway more than 10 years ago, I distinctly heard people laughing and talking as if they were playing a game of cards. And when I walked down to the end of this hallway, nothing. And that's the nature of ghost hunting in these forgotten and abandoned spaces. You have to be patient, try to keep an open mind, and try to explain what you think you're seeing.